Why are the police treating people differently? Can't they get in trouble for treating people differently?
We've talked about the subject a little bit, and I want to know what you think you know about racism.
Do you remember how old you were when your mom or dad even had a conversation about racial discrimination with you?
Race became real for me at 5. I was in kindergarten, and we were sitting at little round tables, and you probably remember sitting at round tables at that age. And one of my classmates went around and invited everybody at the table to her birthday party except for me. I was the only black kid at the table. So I just asked her, I said, hey, I noticed you invited everybody at this table to your birthday party except for me. You know, why did you do that? And she looked at me kind of matter-of-factly and said, well, you can't come to my birthday party because my dad said black people are not allowed in our home. I didn't really understand what that meant, right? I'm 5. And I just remember telling my mom the story about what happened. And I remember her head turning to look at my dad. And so the talk is this conversation that black parents have with our black children to prepare them for, in essence, this racist world. You know, white people haven't been having these conversations about race and racism with their children the way black families have. And what sometimes I tell white families, I understand that this is hard and this is uncomfortable, but it's not the same as being afraid for your life. These are not the same levels of discomfort. For black and brown families, it's life and death.
For the little boy.
It's illegal to have a truck.
I want justice for him.
Okay. You remember when I told you that when I was 8, my family moved from Kansas back to rural Kentucky. Mm-hmm. We moved to a little tiny county that had less people than our block does. The first friend that I made there was a kid named Roger, who's a black kid. And I was instructed that he and I weren't going to be friends anymore because it would, essentially that it would reflect badly on my daddy starting a new business.
I remember you touching on that story before, but I didn't hear the whole thing.
Well, I don't really, I was 8, so my memory's a bit pockmarked on it too.
So at 7, I'm in Girl Scouts. And it just so happened that year, I was the only black kid in Girl Scouts. And so we were out doing a community service project, trying to earn a badge, which is what Girl Scouts do. And all the girls were in a huddle talking. And when I walked up on them, they stopped talking. And so that was kind of weird for me, right? So I went and I pulled my best friend out of the group and I said, hey, you know, when I walked up, you all stopped talking. That was kind of weird. You know, why did you do that? And she looked at me and she said, Rhonda, please don't be mad at me. I'm having a birthday party later today and my dad said that you can't come because you're black.
When I started school, you know, I looked for him on the school bus and found him and hung out. And it apparently, I guess it went through whatever the small town version of a gossip mill is. And it came back as the new family that moved to town was hanging out with the Negroes kind of thing. And I was told by my mother that wasn't the right friend for me to have.
I understood more at 7 than I did at 5, right? Or so I thought. At that point, I'm thinking something's wrong with me and my skin color because it's keeping me out of these spaces.
I don't remember what conversation we had or if we had an actual talk about I'm not supposed to. I don't even remember it. I remember sitting on the side of the you know, large hill, small mountain where we lived and like, you know, breaking pieces of stick off and chucking them down in a ravine together, and it was the last time we hung out.
Makes me feel like, first of all, I forgot. I don't know which place to start at.
So I went home, and this time I'm visibly upset because I got it. Like I know what's happening, right? And so my mom, she came up to me and she's like, "Rhonda, what's wrong?" And I was like, "No, nothing, I'm fine." And she was like, "I'm your mama, you better tell me what's wrong." And so I told her the story. But that time her answer was different. That time she spoke with me about racism. She spoke with me about
Slavery, where blacks were slaves, right? They were owned by
You remember this word, right?
Yeah, but why didn't police came and put people in jail?
because slavery was legal
Yeah,
at that point.
at that
in
time it
So
was
the-
absolutely legal.
She also spoke with me about white people hating black people because of the color of our skin. And so one of the things that in hindsight that I've come to realize is that I've been awakening since 5.
I don't know if I could say like the first time, but I would say something that sticks out in my mind. And I would say between 10 and 12. And it was more overhearing a conversation, like at the dinner table sort of thing. You know, I had older siblings and they were dating, and it came to, you know, bringing a black boy home. Yeah. Whether one parent thought one thing and another parent thought another thing, but I remember that conversation at the dinner table of, you know, about bringing boys home, and race came into it. I would have to say that would be the first time a racial conversation came up.
You know, a lot of white parents don't know how to have that conversation. They don't know how to talk with their children about race and racism and what's going on in this world. And I will say part of it is because no one had that conversation with them. And, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't happen.
I will say this. For way too long in this country, racism has been seen as something, as black people's problems. It's theirs to march against. But it's not. I mean, if anything, it's white people's problems, because white people are doing most of the perpetrating. And it's white people that need to learn how to do better and be different.
So do you guys know what it means to have white privilege?
I mean, I would say I understand white privilege as basically that people have more of a fundamental respect for white people than black people or people of color.
When you're not the target of the discrimination, then for one, it's not as visible to you, so it's not a part of your everyday life. And that invisibility is a freedom. For white parents, their children are not being targeted the way black children are being targeted, the way black people are being targeted. And so if that's not your reality, then you don't have to care. And that's a privilege, right? That's the essence of white privilege.
I remember I was in middle school, I think it was 6th or 7th grade, and my friend, we were at like an aftercare program, and she was talking about Black Lives Matter. And I was like, I agree with you. I agree that this is horrible. Like, I don't think black people should be oppressed, but I kept saying, why is it not all lives matter? Like, I'm confused. Because my thinking was that, okay, Black Lives Matter is a great thing and Black lives do matter, but why don't we say all lives matter so that everybody can stand up and fight as one? And
not to interrupt, but I think about even my supporting you on that aspect, because I questioned it. Like, why don't all lives matter? Because I looked at it from a violence perspective, not a race perspective. And that's why I felt like all lives matter.
You know, I just did not get it back then. And later on, when the Black Lives Movement rose again, that's when I was more educated, and I had to go back and apologize and say, like, I realized what I had done wrong, and I was thinking, like, I told her I was so ignorant to this, like, I can't believe I said this, and I was embarrassed that I had said that, because I would never meant it from a bad place, but everything I was saying was racist and I didn't even know it.
Children, whether you've taught them to be mean or not, are making sense of the world around them. What's beautiful and what's not, who gets to be a certain role and who doesn't. If we aren't the ones teaching them, then who or what is? It's really hard to hear, well, this is a hard conversation, I don't want to make my child sad. You don't want to make your child sad, and I don't want my child to die. These are not equivalents. It's a moral imperative that these conversations start. And a couple of things that I would recommend is, for one, ask your child questions. Ask them what they know. Ask them, what have they seen? What have they heard? Do they know about this word racism?
We may not always know the answer, but we'll try and help you learn. And then I want you to take all the good things that you learn and try and teach others and to try and say that's not right.
They can be disruptors. They can shape and shift culture.
I think what's gonna help is just talking about it, because right now, when we're having this conversation, it helps me want to stand up.
And so what would it be like if we talk with white children, help them to understand what their skin color means, what it has meant historically, talk with young children about the benefits that come with having white skin, and now talk about a responsibility to be a part of undoing harm, a responsibility of using this unearned power and privilege to create change. You don't have to have all the answers, but that doesn't mean we can't start.